First Contact and Confusion. The Harmonious Concordat's diplomatic vessel, Eternal Symmetry, emerged from its perfectly calculated dimensional fold, its crystalline surfaces reflecting the light of an unfamiliar star system. Grand Coordinator Vilera adjusted her ceremonial robes, each fold precisely arranged according to 10,000 years of tradition. Today would mark another triumph for the Concordat's mission of bringing order to the galaxy. Scanning complete, Grand Coordinator announced First Observer Talman, his voice modulated to the exact frequency prescribed for formal reports. We have detected a structure in orbit around the third planet. It appears to be unusual. Vilera glided to the observation deck, her movements a practiced dance of authority. The structure in question hung in space, like an artist's bizarre dream, asymmetrical, with sections spinning at different velocities, and sporting what appeared to be a massive garden dome complete with clouds. Surely this is some primitive attempt at space habitation, Vilera remarked, her secondary breathing sacs pulsing with mild amusement. Initiate first contact protocols. Before Talman could activate the carefully crafted greeting sequence, a transmission cut through their communication system. The voice was accompanied by what the ship's translators identified as jazz fusion. Welcome to Harmony Station Beta. You've reached humanity's experimental physics and chill-out zone. If you're here for the quantum surfing competition, you're a week early. If you're first-time visitors, please be advised that the artificial gravity gets funky in the dance sectors. That's intentional. Vilera's probability glands throbbed in confusion. This wasn't following any of the 16,000 prescribed first contact scenarios. We are the Harmonious Concordat, perfect inheritors of the galaxy's greatest achievements. We have come to evaluate your civilization for potential integration into our perfect society. There was a pause, followed by what the translators identified as poorly suppressed laughter. Perfect society. Oh man, marketing departments really are universal. Hold up, letting the station chief know we got some interesting visitors. Minutes later, Station Chief Dr. Sarah Chen appeared on their view screen, floating upside down in what appeared to be a zero-gravity office full of holographic displays and a small orbit of coffee mugs. Sorry about the orientation. Gravity's more of a suggestion in my office. Welcome to human space. We're always excited to meet new friends, especially ones with such interesting claims about perfection. Vilera drew herself up to her full ceremonial height. Our civilization has achieved ultimate harmony through perfect standardization. We have eliminated the chaos of individual variation, ensuring that all technological and social progress follows our great pattern. Fascinating approach, Dr. Chen replied, catching a passing coffee mug. Though I've got to ask, how's that working out for your quantum mechanics research? Last I checked, observation kind of messes with standardization at that level. We have achieved speeds of 50 times light. Vilera began proudly. Oh honey, Dr. Chen interrupted, genuine concern in her voice. 50. That's adorable. Listen, we've got some great introductory physics courses here at the station. Our junior high students would love to explain quantum tunneling to you. They're working on some really cute projects with pocket universes this semester. The Grand Coordinator's chromatic scales shifted through several shades of confusion. Pocket universes. Yeah, you know, for extra storage space. Can't have teenagers leaving their quantum experiments lying around. It gets messy. Speaking of which, Dr. Chen gestured to something off-screen, and suddenly the space around the eternal symmetry sparkled with countless tiny distortions. What is this? Vilera demanded, her perfect composure slipping. Oh, just the kids' science fair projects. They're studying probability manipulation through multi-dimensional origami. Don't worry if reality gets a bit wobbly. They're still learning to clean up their quantum spillage. At that moment, a small human child floated into view behind Dr. Chen, proudly holding up what appeared to be a crudely folded paper crane. Dr. Chen, I made the crane exist in 7 dimensions at once. That's great, Tani, Just remember to collapse the wave functions when you're done this time. Last week's homework is still occasionally materializing in the cafeteria. Valera watched in horror as several members of her crew began to report strange phenomena throughout the ship, gravity reversing in non-regulation ways, quantum probabilities refusing to resolve according to the great pattern, and worst of all, crew members beginning to ask unauthorized questions. Perhaps, Valera managed, her voice wavering slightly, we should discuss cultural exchange programs. It seems we may have something to learn from each other. That's the spirit. Dr. Chen beamed, now spinning slowly in her chair. Tell you what, why don't you dock with us? We're having a little get-together in the probability lounge later. It's karaoke night, and thanks to our quantum uncertainty amplifiers, you never know what song you're going to sing until you observe it. It's a blast. As the Eternal Symmetry's crew began the complex docking procedures, made more complicated by reality's continued refusal to behave according to regulations, Valera had a disturbing thought. Perhaps perfection wasn't quite what the Concordia had imagined it to be, and somehow that thought felt strangely exciting. Somewhere in the station, Tommy's paper crane flickered through its 7 dimensions, trailing possibilities like confetti through the perfectly ordered halls of Valera's worldview. The great documentation. First observer Talman sat in what the humans called a beanbag chair, his data tablet hovering before him as he attempted to catalog the chaos unfolding in Harmony Station Beta's main promenade. According to protocol, every aspect of human civilization needed to be documented and classified. After 3 days, he had managed to fill exactly 0 categories to Concordia standards. Having trouble with the paperwork, Dr. Chen materialized beside him, riding what appeared to be a personal gravity field. Today, she was oriented perpendicular to what the station designated as the floor. Nothing fits the established parameters, Talman admitted, his frustration seeping through his professional demeanor. Your technological advancement scale alone violates 16 fundamental laws of progress. You achieved faster than light travel before developing a unified planetary government. You mastered quantum manipulation before standardizing your measurement systems. Some of your most significant breakthroughs came from what you call random shower thoughts and spite-driven research. Don't forget the grad student who solved quantum entanglement because they were too sleep-deprived to remember it was supposed to be impossible. Dr. Chen added helpfully. We named a theorem after their coffee mug. A group of human teenagers walked by, casually manipulating personal probability fields to play what they called quantum tag. According to the rules, players existed in multiple states simultaneously until tagged, at which point their wave function would collapse into either a winner or loser. Talman had given up trying to enforce safety protocols after discovering that the game's chaos actually made it safer by distributing risk across multiple probability streams. How do you manage anything without a unified direction? Talman asked, watching as a research team nearby debated 5 contradictory theories about the same phenomenon, all of which somehow worked when tested. That's the neat part, Dr. Chen grinned, her gravity field spinning her into a new orientation. We don't manage it. We just sort of let it happen and take notes. Speaking of notes, she gestured to a wall where several equations were scrawled in what appeared to be glowing ink. Your crew might want to avoid the theoretical mathematics department for a few days. They're having their annual break reality and put it back together slightly wrong competition. Last year's winner made Euclidean geometry work in non-Euclidean spaces. We're still finding perfectly square circles in odd corners of the station. Talman's data tablet chimed with another error message as it tried to categorize a human child's art project that doubled as a working model of an 11-dimensional space engine. The Concordat believes that progress requires perfect order, he said, but his voice carried a note of uncertainty. Yeah. Dr. Chen raised an eyebrow. Tell me, how many breakthroughs has the Concordat had in the last century? We have refined our existing technologies to 99.99998% efficiency, Talman replied proudly. And in the last month, Humanity had about 12,000 significant breakthroughs, 300 paradigm shifts, and one guy who accidentally invented a new form of mathematics while trying to optimize his cookie recipe. That's impossible. Your civilization should have collapsed under the weight of such chaos. Should have, would have, could have. 3 of my least favorite phrases. Dr. Chen shrugged. Did you know we have an entire research division dedicated to studying why things that shouldn't work do? We call it the Department of Falling Forward and Failing Upward. Their annual budget is whatever they find in the couch cushions of probability space. At that moment, an announcement echoed through the station. Attention all personnel. Due to a slight mishap in the quantum cooking lab, lunch today will either be gourmet fusion cuisine or sentient mathematics. Please observe your meal carefully before eating. If your sandwich tries to teach you calculus, please report it to the nearest reality compliance officer. Talman watched as station residents reacted to the news with nothing more than casual interest and a few disappointed mumbles of quantum math food again. He looked down at his tablet, then at the thriving chaos around him, and made a decision that would have been grounds for immediate psychological evaluation in the Concordia. He turned off the classification protocols. Dr. Chen, he said, surprising himself with his own boldness, would you mind showing me this Department of Falling Forward? I believe I need to expand my research parameters. Now you're getting it. Dr. Chen beamed, her gravity field expanding to encompass him. Fair warning, though. Last week they discovered that humor is actually a fundamental force of the universe. The quantum comedy research has been interesting. Hope you're ready to learn why entropy has a sense of irony. As they floated away, Talman's tablet registered one final error before shutting down. Warning: observer has exceeded acceptable parameters for curiosity. Recommend immediate reset to standard protocols. For the first time in his career, Talman found himself doing something thoroughly unconcordat. He laughed. Behind them, a young researcher successfully persuaded a quantum probability field to tell a joke. The resulting paradox turned 3 laboratories into rubber ducks, but everyone agreed the punchline was worth it. Democracy versus unity. Grand Coordinator Vilera stood before the Concordat's Emergency Response Council, her scales shifting through various shades of distress as she delivered her report. The holographic displays behind her showed scenes from Harmony Station Beta that made several council members' probability glands throb painfully. As you can see, she gestured to footage of humans casually violating what the Concordat had considered immutable laws of physics. Their approach to civilization is unconventional. They have over 3,000 different forms of government operating simultaneously across their sphere of influence. Some colonies choose their leaders through what they call ranked choice voting. Others use direct democracy enhanced by quantum computing. One particularly troubling system involves citizens temporarily merging their consciousness into a collective that votes as individuals while simultaneously experiencing all viewpoints. Preposterous, declared High Counselor Zach's telephone. How can they achieve anything without a unified direction? That's the problem, High Counselor. They achieve everything. Their chaos somehow breeds innovation at an exponential rate. Last week, a group of their children invented a new form of mathematics while playing a game they call Calvin Ball. The rules change constantly, yet somehow they used it to solve 3 Millennium Prize problems in physics. The council chamber erupted in murmurs of disbelief. Vilera continued, her voice strained. It gets worse. They have something called open source technology. Anyone can access their research, modify it, and share the results. There are no controls, no regulations beyond basic safety protocols, and even those are subject to what they call peer review and community feedback. Surely this leads to chaos, another counselor protested. It does, Vilera admitted. Productive chaos. While we spent a century perfecting our standard FTL drive, they developed 37 different faster-than-light technologies. Some of their ships don't even move through space. They rearrange probability until they're simply more likely to be at their destination than their origin point. A junior counselor raised a trembling appendage. What about their social structure? Surely they must have some form of unified cultural direction. Vilera's scales shifted to the deep blue of existential dread. They have something called meme culture. It's like chaos given consciousness. Ideas evolve and mutate in real time. Their entertainment, their art, their very language transforms constantly. Some of their youngest citizens communicate entirely through layered references that mean different things depending on the quantum state of the observer. She brought up new footage, humans in the station's recreational areas, playing games that altered local reality, holding conversations across multiple probability streams, and casually manipulating fundamental forces that the Concordat had spent millennia trying to understand. Yesterday, Vilera continued, her voice dropping to a near whisper, I observed a human child ask their AI assistant to explain why their homework was relevant to real life. The AI constructed a simulation that transformed abstract mathematical concepts into an interactive game. The child not only learned advanced calculus in under an hour, but also discovered 3 new applications for it in quantum engineering. They called it speedrunning education and shared the technique freely on something called SpaceTube. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Finally, High Counselor Zaxtel spoke. Perhaps we should reconsider our approach to integration, instead of assessing them for membership in the Concordat. They've already submitted an application. Vilera interrupted, her scales now shifting through colors the council had never seen before. Not to join, but to establish what they call a cultural exchange program. They'd want to send some of their students to our worlds too, and I quote, vibe with different perspectives, and maybe share some cool hacks for reality. And if we refuse? They said they'd respect our decision, but mentioned that their quantum physics students are very interested in studying closed social systems and might choose our civilization as the subject for their thesis projects. Their professors are apparently very encouraging of hands-on research. The council erupted in panic. The idea of human students treating their perfect society as a research project was too terrifying to contemplate. Vilera watched as the pillars of order that had sustained the Concordat for 10,000 years began to crack under the weight of human ingenuity and creativity. There's one more thing, she added, almost apologetically. They've invited us to something called a hackathon next month. They say it's a friendly competition to find new solutions to old problems. The grand prize is apparently a custom-built pocket universe with, and I quote, really cool physics mods. As the council descended into chaos, productive chaos, Vilera noted with a mix of horror and fascination. She couldn't help but wonder if perhaps the humans had discovered something the Concordat had forgotten 10,000 years ago. The joy of not knowing what comes next. Somewhere in Harmony Station Beta, a group of teenagers were teaching a quantum probability field to play jazz. The resulting music existed in all possible keys simultaneously, and somehow it sounded perfect. The innovation race. Deep within the crystalline spires of the Concordat's premier research institute, junior researcher Kelva was breaking every protocol in the 10,000-year-old manual of scientific procedures. The chamber's quantum sensors had been recalibrated to what humans called vibing with the universal flow, and the traditional symmetrical research patterns had been replaced with what Dr. Chen had described as throwing science at the wall and seeing what sticks. This is highly irregular, muttered her research partner, Syntax, while simultaneously taking detailed notes on their unprecedented progress. We've achieved more breakthrough innovations in 3 days than our department has in the last century. Isn't it wonderful? Kelva's scales rippled with excitement as she adjusted the probability matrix. The humans were right. Chaos isn't the enemy of progress, it's the catalyst. Their unauthorized experiment chamber had become a hub for young Concordat scientists who'd been inspired by the transmissions from Harmony Station Beta. The walls were covered in what humans called sticky notes, a chaotic but strangely effective method of organizing thoughts. Some of the notes existed in quantum superposition, containing multiple ideas simultaneously until observed. Did you see the latest update from the Human Education Exchange? Syntax asked, manipulating a holographic model of their latest project. Their children are teaching our quantum physicists how to speedrun research protocols. Apparently, if you approach the same problem from 17 different angles simultaneously while drinking something called energy drinks, you can compress a year's worth of research into a weekend. The council is in complete disarray, Kelva chuckled. Yesterday, a human elementary school student asked why our FTL drives don't incorporate quantum drift mechanics like in their racing games. When our engineers said it was impossible, the child proceeded to prove it was possible using crayon drawings and interpretive dance. Their conversation was interrupted by a priority alert on their communication panels. The latest transmission from Harmony Station Beta was being broadcast across all Concordia frequencies. Dr. Chen appeared, floating in her quantum probability field, surrounded by holographic displays showing various human innovations. "Hey there, science friends," she waved. "Quick update from the frontier of human Concordia cooperation. Our quantum computing team just figured out how to make your crystals process information in 11 dimensions instead of just 3. We're sending over the specs. It's actually pretty simple once you realize reality is more of a suggestion than a rule. Also, some of our high school students have been playing around with your FTL drive designs. They thought it would be fun to see if they could make them run on renewable energy sources. Turns out you can power an entire fleet using nothing but quantum uncertainty and teenage enthusiasm." The transmission continued, each announcement more reality-bending than the last. Kelva and Syntax watched as their fellow young researchers gathered around screens throughout the institute, their scales shifting through colors of excitement and inspiration. "Oh, and one more thing," Dr. Chen added with a grin. "We're hosting an intergalactic science fair next month. No rules, no limitations, just pure innovation and creativity. Grand prize is a personalizable pocket universe, perfect for testing out those crazy ideas your council keeps saying are impossible. Hope to see you there." As the transmission ended, Kelvin noticed something remarkable. Across the institute, young researchers were removing their ceremonial robes of order and symmetry. Some were even rearranging their laboratories into what humans called organized chaos zones. "You know what this means, don't you?" Syntax said, their scales shifting to a color that hadn't been seen in Concordia society for millennia. The iridescent hue of rebellion. "The great pattern is about to become a lot more interesting." Kelva agreed, pulling up designs for what she called a probability skateboard, a transportation device that worked by surfing quantum wavelengths. Throughout the institute, similar scenes were playing out. Young researchers were embracing human concepts like thinking outside the box, despite the Concordia's insistence that all thinking should be done in properly regulated cubic chambers, and winging it, a term that caused senior researchers' probability glands to spasm in horror. In one laboratory, a group was attempting to combine human meme culture with quantum computing, creating what they called Schrodinger's cat videos, entertainment that existed in a superposition of hilarious and profound until observed. In another, researchers were applying human gaming concepts to spacecraft design, resulting in ships that handled like what humans called speedrunners' dreams. The innovation race had begun, and the Concordia's young generation was determined to show that they could match human creativity, even if it meant breaking every rule in their 10,000-year-old book. As Kelva and Syntax continued their experiments, a message appeared on their quantum display, transmitted through what humans called the quantum mean space. It was from a group of human teenagers at Harmony Station Beta. "Heard you're speedrunning the scientific method. Want to join our Discord server? We're planning to hack physics next weekend. BYOs. Bring your own snacks. P.S. Your quantum crystals are poggers." Neither of them understood what poggers meant, but they found themselves excited to find out. The future, they realized, was going to be gloriously unpredictable. Evolution of understanding. 1 year after first contact, Harmony Station Beta had undergone some significant changes. The once asymmetrical structure now incorporated Concordia crystalline architecture, creating a stunning blend of human chaos and alien precision. In what was now called the Quantum Commons, Grand Coordinator Vilera sat across from Dr. Chen, both of them watching their civilizations evolve in real time. "I must admit," Vilera said, her scales now comfortable displaying previously forbidden colors of innovation, "we didn't expect the cultural exchange to be quite so transformative." Dr. Chen grinned, today choosing to orient herself in standard gravity as a courtesy to the numerous Concordia visitors. "That's the beauty of mutual learning. Your young scientists taught our chaos goblins the value of documentation and reproducible results. Who knew that adding a little structure to our quantum probability surfing would lead to stable 11-dimensional transport?" Around them, human and Concordia scientists worked together in ways that would have been unthinkable a year ago. Young Keleva, now heading the newly established Department of Improbable Innovation, was leading a team that combined human creativity with Concordia precision to develop what they called quantum jazz, a new form of faster-than-light travel that used harmonized chaos as its driving force. "Did you see the latest breakthrough?" Vilera asked, gesturing to a nearby laboratory where human teenagers and Concordia engineers were collaborating. "They've managed to stabilize pocket universes using meme energy. Apparently, the power of human inside jokes can anchor dimensional spaces. Yeah, the meme-stabilized universes are a game changer," Dr. Chen nodded. "Though we're still working out some kinks. Last week, someone accidentally created a pocket dimension that communicates entirely in outdated internet references. We had to send in a team of millennial historians to translate." The station's announcement system, now a hybrid of human AI and Concordia crystalline computing, chimed melodiously. "Attention all personnel. Today's reality forecast predicts a 60% chance of spontaneous innovation, with scattered breakthroughs throughout the afternoon. The quantum cafeteria will be serving fusion cuisine that exists in a superposition of all possible flavor combinations. Please remember to collapse your food's wave function before eating. Also, the Department of Temporal Shenanigans reminds everyone that paradox surfing is permitted only in designated areas." Vilera watched as a group of human children taught young Concordia observers how to vibe with the quantum flow, while the Concordia teachers helped the humans understand the elegant mathematics underlying their intuitive reality manipulation. "We spent 10,000 years seeking perfection," she mused, "only to discover that perfection itself is imperfect. And we spent centuries thinking outside the box," Dr. Chen added, "only to learn that sometimes you need a well-designed box to catch all the ideas in." She paused, watching a Concordia scientist attempt to explain protocol methodology to a human researcher who was simultaneously existing in 3 probability states. "Though I think we're still working on the exact box-to-chaos ratio." In the station's new Quantum Innovation Hub, Syntax was presenting the results of their latest experiment, a revolutionary form of artificial intelligence that combined Concordia crystal computing with human neural networks. The AI had developed what it called a sense of cosmic humor and had taken to telling jokes that existed in quantum superposition. Each punchline was simultaneously hilarious and profound until observed. "Your council seems to be adapting well to the changes," Dr. Chen observed, noting the latest directive that encouraged controlled chaos in research methodology. "They didn't have much choice," Vilera chuckled, a sound that would have been shocking from a grand coordinator a year ago. "When our young ones started producing breakthrough technologies using human methods, the council had to either adapt or admit that their perfect system wasn't so perfect after all." A commotion near the quantum physics lab drew their attention. A joint team of human and Concordia researchers had accidentally created what they called a probability tsunami, a wave of pure quantum potential that was transforming everything in its path into increasingly improbable but technically possible variations of itself. Instead of panic, Both species scientists were taking eager notes and suggesting ways to weaponize it for future food fights. "You know what the real breakthrough was?" Dr. Chen said, watching the probability tsunami turn a section of the corridor into a self-aware modern art installation. "Neither of our species had to fundamentally change who we are. We just had to learn to appreciate different ways of being right." Vilera nodded, her scales shifting through a rainbow of harmonious innovation. The Concordat sought perfection through unity, while humans achieved greatness through diversity. Together, we're discovering that the true path to advancement lies in understanding that both approaches have their place. As if to punctuate her point, the station's quantum core hummed with new energy, the result of human creativity and Concordat precision working in perfect harmony. The future, they both realized, would be neither chaotic nor ordered, but something gloriously in between. "So," Dr. Chen grinned, "ready for next week's trans-dimensional science fair? I hear some of the kids have figured out how to turn quantum entanglement into a dance move." "Only if you're ready for the Concordat's first ever organized chaos symposium," Vilera replied. "We're planning to break at least half of our fundamental laws of physics, but we'll do it with impeccable documentation." Above them, reality rippled with the laughter of two species who had discovered that the greatest innovation of all was learning to see the universe through each other's eyes, even if those eyes sometimes existed in quantum superposition.